2, 3, and we are on.
Cool. Well, have you ever been to a fish fry?
I have contributed to many fish fries.
You know, it's funny because it's a mainstay for us. Even back home in Missouri, where I was a kid, fish fries are really big, and catfish seemed to be the fish. You know, that was the one. Everybody go catfishing. You have a big fish fry. Well, we went home this weekend to East Texas and had a fish fry, and it was one of Annette's friends from school. Yeah, it's funny how people look back and say, "Oh, I've had this friend since grade school." They've been friends since they were like 3 years old.
Right.
So it's Annette, her friend Donna, and another friend Dennis, and they all grew up on the same church, same school, everything. So when Dennis comes home, he has a fish fry twice a year. Actually, we went to one in April, and we had another one this recently.
Is this fish? It's like the fish. Is this stuff he's caught, or is this?
Well, sometimes it is. Sometimes they just go buy it and he just has it. Right. Yeah, they just have, because there's so many good places to buy catfish now that's really good. But yeah, so they get together and he has everybody over, and his dad's got a place over there, and it's like 30 or 40 people. It's a lot of fun, and him and his sister kind of put it on. And it's just one of those things where you sit back and life kind of takes a back seat and slows down. A lot of porch sitting, a lot of storytelling.
Oh, heck yeah.
Oh, man, it's just, it's like the greatest time. It really is. You get to hear people tell stories in small town America, like we both experience and like to talk about. There's just funny moments in them. Just funny things that you just can't make up. Yeah, like
I never went to any like huge fish fries like that, but when my brother and I were growing up, back in the East Texas area, also, Piney Woods. My father or my grandfather was friends with many people at his church who had like stock ponds and private lakes and stuff, and like Houston County Lake was a popular place that my father would take my brother and I to. That's where we first learned how to fish with the old Zebco.
Zebco 33s.
Zebco
33s. Push button. Yeah.
33 was our first, and I think we graduated off into something else. But we were catching like black bass, and we would fish off the spillway that was coming out of the.
Sure.
So we got exposed to not huge fish, but we had, because of where we were fishing, we were more likely to catch fish than not if we would just sat on a pier or fished off the bank or whatever. But my grandmother, no matter where we came home from, whether we went fishing with my father or my grandfather, it was always a fish fry.
Right.
So she would cook up the black bass or the perch or the catfish that we came home with, and my grandfather had this horrible looking lean-to, and my fondest memory is when we would drive in from Houston, and we'd always arrive like a Friday night, and so they could hear us drive up the driveway, and they would turn the light on, and the light would light up the back of the house, and that light would hit that little lean-to area where my grandfather did all of his little tinkering, and there would be this fish head that had the skin was already off of it, and this fish head hung for years.
Sure.
And that's my grandfather. There would be many times we'd come home or come up to visit, and there he'd be out there, descaling the fish to get ready to
right. So a lot of people would trot line.
Yeah,
for catfish, what you're trot lining for. Actually, we do a lot of bass fishing and crappie fishing on Toledo and Rayburn.
Right.
And so when that's all done, for the most part, we're really throwing most of them back. Honestly, because everybody just gets tired of taking them home and cleaning them. There, once in a while, we'll get a big mess of fish, crappie or white bass. And even black bass and bring back.
Crappie were the elusive fish for
me. Crappie's my favorite eating fish. To me, I'd eat a fried crappie over anything out there.
Yes.
That's flounder and all of it. It's really good. They call it sac-a-lait,
oh, really?
On the border, yeah. And so I that's one of my favorites. But we did that a lot as a family. We would have everything, like we'd have the hush puppies, the French fries, the dirty rice, the potato salad, the coleslaw.
Yeah.
And just sit around and just tell stories and just, kind of reconnect with a lot of the fun stuff we did. But this one here in particular, this last weekend, it'd been a couple of years since I've been to one of that size. And it was just fun to just see people sit around and tell stories. I mean, they're talking about their jobs and people they run into, and so it's coming up on the 40th year for hers and my class reunions.
Okay.
And so Annette was president of the class, and all of them were active. They were all active in the class, so it's funny to hear them talk about people that they see around town and stuff like that. But yeah, we had a good time. There's always more food than you can eat. And especially the thing that I found funny is since I've been eating clean, it was hard for me to put down a lot of fish. I couldn't hardly. I used to eat my weight in gold and that stuff. Now I only had like maybe 6 or 8 pieces, and usually where I would have eaten like 2 dozen. I mean, I would have piled it up. So instead of big long fillets, they're just like chunks. They're like half fillets, but it was good. It was all good.
Well, I guess with how I think of fish is like me. I'm watching what I eat too, but I always look at fish is the one thing that's okay.
Yeah.
And in any format that
fried,
is given
grilled,
to you, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. No, I hear you. Well, it was a good time. The hush puppies are my favorite. I like them. They're pretty good. But another thing that I kind of always like to go to East Texas for is barbecue. I kind of like to roll up on that. I mean, somebody asked me the other day. I used to judge barbecue years ago.
Okay.
I used to judge a lot of regional stuff. And everybody's always asking when they find out, well, where's the best barbecue place? And I gotta be honest with you, it's the one you're at.
Yes.
I can't really say I have a absolute knockdown. If I'm gonna die tomorrow, I'm gonna eat here today.
Right.
Kind of thing. I just don't. I mean, do you?
No. I mean, like we were talking. When we were talking, I guess it was either yesterday or actually maybe today. But it's like you're absolutely right about the best one is the one that you're at.
Yeah.
But we also have the ones where when we want to step up the game on barbecue.
Sure.
There's certain places that we go to, but with that, like Corkscrew, be prepared to be standing in a very long line.
Well, I'm committed though. I get there early. I'm the kind of guy that'll show up at 10, knowing that it's going to be busy at 10:35.
Right.
Because the way they do it, they really fix it up right. You pick up a number out of a book.
The one time you took me there, I was pretty amazed with the way they did that.
Yeah. So you can actually send somebody over, get the number, and then go do something, and come back before the line's formed, and you're automatically in it. That's what I like that.
It's like hanging out on somebody's porch waiting for the kitchen to open. So.
Right. No, it is. Speaking of that, we'll just jump into that group. Corkscrew started out up in by the Woodlands. They were off of Booty Road.
Okay.
They had their trailer, so they would have a barbecue trailer, and then they would pull up on this location and just start selling barbecue until they run out. And then they added a big metal awning. Then they added a second metal awning. Then it started getting big.
Right.
And these guys are. So what ends up happening with barbecue places like that, which I like the ones that start as trailers. Excuse me, because those guys they're in it to win it. They just know they love their barbecue. They're going to go out and make this and sell it. When they started getting real popular, they were able to secure a retail or a restaurant space, and they moved to Old Town Spring,
which I was pretty because the place that they secured was, I mean, it
was Hyde's Cafe.
It is
music and burgers and beers.
Okay, yeah, because it's a premium location.
It is, but they deserve it. But here's what's funny though. So I've had really great barbecue at Corkscrew. I've had some not so good barbecue at Corkscrew.
Okay.
So I'm going to tell you a little bit about what and it's nothing, consistently they're good. I'm not knocking on them. But there are times I don't like over-salted brisket.
Okay.
So to me, there's a fine balance because you have all these barbecue regions and everybody judges barbecue by a very harsh standard. I judge it by the territory I'm standing in.
Right.
So if I'm in East Texas, I expect it to be one way. I look at Houston as kind of like the gap between East Texas and the Hill Country.
Okay.
Because they do their barbecue completely different. But when I go to a barbecue joint, it's going to be brisket. That's Texas.
Right.
You go to other places, it's their ribs or their pulled pork. Well, that's not Texas. We're a brisket down here.
What's funny is, I mean, you could actually just look at the Houston metropolitan area, and actually you can hit certain pockets of the city,
sure,
and those locations will have their favorite local barbecue joint.
Oh yeah.
You go to any of the first, second, or third wards. Oh my God, you're gonna find some of the best eating.
Oh, I'm telling you, yeah. And that's the same way in East Texas. You'll have people that'll try to say, "Hey, we have West Texas barbecue." Well, I didn't go to East Texas to eat West Texas barbecue. Right. I want to go there and eat the stuff with the tomato sauce and the brisket. I mean, I want it the way they make it over there.
Right.
And it's kind of funny because they sauce their meat there.
Okay.
Some people say, "Oh, well, that's bullshit. That's not real barbecue." I disagree with you. Barbecue again is very regional.
Yeah.
Okay. And when I always get brisket. That's the first thing I test. I don't get the lean. I like to get the moist, as long as it's not loaded with fat.
Right.
I will eat that. I don't put sauce on it initially.
Right.
I eat mostly because I like the brisket. Now, if I want to add sauce to it, I just want to try out what their sauce is, I'll do that. I'll go ahead and add the sauce to it, but I don't generally use sauce on it.
I'm generally not quite that harsh when it comes to food. I don't figure out. I don't sit here and say what is and what isn't. Whatever the food it is that I'm eating.
Yeah.
Like I was pretty amazed that there was that much difference between the West Texas, the East Texas.
Oh, there's a huge difference. Yeah.
You and I only know there's 2 or 3 other people I know that are that spun up when it comes to the different styles that are out there. Me, I don't care. It fits in my mouth, and if it tastes good, it's okay to me.
Well, you have Memphis barbecue, you have South Carolina barbecue, you have Georgia barbecue, you have Mississippi barbecue, you have St. Louis barbecue versus Kansas City versus Oklahoma.
And I will say, I do like some Kansas City barbecue.
Oh, I do
in
too.
St.Louis.
Yeah.
Wow, I had some pretty good food there
St. Louis is actually a good food town, especially for barbecue. So is Kansas City. There's a place up there called Q39, which is one of my favorite barbecue places in Kansas City. It's just really nice. But burnt ends are big up there. So you have Jack Stacks, you have Oklahoma Joe's, you have Arthur Bryant's.
Okay.
You have the Woodshed. Oh man, I know I'm leaving stuff out, and people.
But do they have a Rudy's?
So it's funny you say Rudy's. So what I look for? So I met Rudy's barbecue in San Antonio.
Okay.
And the first one I went to is in New Braunfels, where the old Crystal Chandelier used to be.
Yes. Yeah.
So Crystal Chandelier was a dance hall. It was the first dance hall I saw George Strait playing before he was famous.
Uh-huh.
And it's funny because when that dance hall went down, I refused to go to Rudy's because the dance hall used to be there. I was pissed.
I can understand that.
And I was like, man, it was a great place. So anyway, I stopped in there with a friend one day, and I had heard that they were sending barbecue sauce to the troops.
Okay.
Because a lot of Army and Air Force guys
defects probably.
Yeah, spend time in San Antonio, and they're always going to go up to New Braunfels, and there's some great barbecue through the whole area. They're Germans and Czechs. You're not going to get better meat guys than that.
Right.
So he got me in the door, and I sat down, and I'll be honest with you, it was really good.
Right.
And now it's retail. I call it retail barbecue. Okay.
Right.
Because there's more than one. Okay, so I look at a barbecue joint a little different than I do other restaurants. So when you have more than one, I look at it as retail.
Yes, yeah, I do agree with you there.
Yeah. Because there's a place that on my way to San Antonio in Flatonia called Joel's.
Okay.
So I would take I-10 going west to San Antonio, and I would always Joel's is about halfway.
Okay.
So there's Oak Ridge, and then there's Joel's. I always stopped at Joel's.
Uh-huh.
Then there's I don't know if Schobel's does barbecue anymore, but we used to stop there as well. But I would always make that stop. When you hit there, you're hitting meat that only has salt and pepper on it.
Yes,
that's all it is. It's just salt and pepper on a brisket. That's the real barbecue. So when you cross the what is that? The Brazos River, I think it is, that runs through
Colorado.
Columbus. Yeah, the Colorado runs through Columbus. Once you go past Columbus, and you have McKeska's. You have Jerry McKeska's.
Yeah, McKeska.
Great barbecue. That's all salt and pepper. Okay?
Yeah, because and when I was at Fort Hood for a while, McKeska's is
McKeska family is incredible with
huge over there.
Sausage. I mean, so to me, when I get to the hill country, I always have sausage with my barbecue.
Okay.
Okay, because that's the Czechs, man. I mean, come on. How do you not eat sausage when you're in that part of the world?
I do have one barbecue story that you will not believe, where some of the most awesomest barbecue I'd ever eaten before. And it was ribs and sausage and chicken. I don't remember a whole lot about brisket, but it was in Afghanistan.
Oh wow, really?
So on Tuesdays there was this where the PX was located on this particular camp that I was at. It's Camp Phoenix. It's no longer a U.S. base or a coalition base anymore. It's been handed over. But on Tuesdays, there was a dude there during my time there that they said he came from Louisiana. I swear to God, this was some of the best ribs I had ever had in my life.
To me, Louisiana is the best food state in the union, but that's just me.
But
I love Louisiana food.
When I tell people, they're like, "You had what? Where?"
Yeah,
and I'm like, "Yeah, it's the host nation is Muslim, but we were eating the shit out of some really good ribs."
Right.
I mean, even when I came home,
right,
I was like, "Hey, these are good, but they ain't in Afghanistan good."
There you go. Hey, well, I'm telling you that just goes to prove. It just depends on what part of the world you're in and what's going on. And barbecue to me is universal.
Sure.
I mean, people have been cooking dead animals over fires for many, many, many years.
Sure.
Some people, and they make it too complicated. I don't like this smoker. I don't like that. You got to do it this way. I'm like, dude, just sit down and enjoy the meal.
The artisan factor has crept too deeply into cooking in general.
Well, I think TV's made everybody a food judge.
Sure.
The Food Network. And I love the Food Network. I mean, we've done companies I've been with before. We've done stuff with Food Network in the early days, and it's really brought a lot of stuff out to a status that it didn't have before. But now it's gone ridiculous, like everything else. The whole barbecue challenge, that channel they had with Myron Mixon and all those guys doing the barbecue cook-offs. It started out really cool for a while, but then after a while, it just got to be too much. I mean, shit. Just get a grill, get some coals, and cook some meat. Let's cut all the drama out of it.
Right,
you know what I mean? So, but anyway, we started with Rudy's, and I went way off on a different trail. So going back to it, like I said, ate at Rudy's, thought it was good. Then they started popping up.
Right.
They started popping up here and there, and then they started opening here in Houston. Now, what I would say is that day in and day out, we eat there every Monday for 2 years?
Yeah.
Almost 2 years we go there every Monday, and it's just like I get the same thing, and it's consistent.
Oh yeah, that's the one thing I will say is
consistent.
And I'm all over that menu. It's between
the chili, the stew,
the green chili stew. Lord, that stuff is good.
It's fantastic. Now, I'm not going to say it's like award winning. I don't hardly say anybody's award winning. Because I will tell you this about judging barbecue.
Okay.
On the regional levels, it's legit. The good barbecue definitely makes it to the table. But I'm going to knock the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo barbecue thing. That, to me, has lost its way a long time ago.
Oh, interesting.
That's sponsor dollars. That's about people throwing money at this organization. Right. It really is. I mean, they already know who's won it before they even have the cook-off.
Now, I do have my uncle. My uncle he and my aunt live down in towards Galveston.
Mm-hmm.
My uncle is an artist when it comes to not grilling but smoking.
Sure.
Smoking anything around a smoker. He participates in some barbecue cooking team, and they go all over the place. They do events with local police municipalities, fundraisers, all kinds of stuff, and he is like you. Yeah. I mean, he goes and he talks to the butchers about how they cut the meat and all that stuff. And me, my award winning is if I walked away after a meal,
felt good about
it. Felt good, and I wanted to go get some more. That's award winning to me.
I'm telling you, well, it's funny because I'm the same way. Like I said, I don't get too tied up. I will say this now about barbecue chains.
Okay.
So we have Spring Creek is around.
Ugh.
You know, it's funny. It's to me, okay, so we're going to talk about Dickey's Barbecue and Spring Creek Barbecue, okay? Then there's Pappas, Barbecue. Those are chains. They're all local chains. They took over the old Luther's. Remember the Luther's Barbecue?
Oh, that's right, yeah.
So when that all went, when Walter Jolly died and all that thing changed over, they sold it to the Pappas brothers.
My ex, she loved her some Luther's.
Well, so it used to be pretty good. I mean, so to me, it's barbecue, so it's going to be good.
Sure.
So when I look at that and I go in and it's consistent, I'll go back. But a lot of those chains, they don't have that option. And one of them I'm going to pick on a little bit is Dickey's. Okay. So I used to eat at Dickey's in Dallas all the time.
I don't think I've ever had any.
Well, they got a few of them around here, so they franchised them, right?
Yes.
So the Dickey's that I went to in Dallas was right there in Grand Prairie, and it was good.
Uh-huh.
It was really good. But what ended up happening as they started spreading around, they started selling them to franchisees.
Okay.
And I don't know if anybody's seen the movie The Founder about McDonald's with Ray Kroc and how he had all his friends buy into the franchise and they started changing it. Oh, it's just a restaurant.
Right.
No, you got to follow the McDonald's menu, you know, that type thing. Well, that's what ends up happening with franchises. What ends up happening is you don't work it. You're a guy that owns a bunch of restaurants as an investment, but you're not in the restaurant.
Right.
And so you're only as good as your management team and your employees.
Your team.
Yeah, your team. And so a lot of people, when you're in those franchise situations, waste is a big thing.
Uh-huh.
So something an artisan would have probably not served, probably gets served in a place like that. And I found that to be true of the Dickies that were down here. There used to be one right down the road here by the H-E-B, between LA Fitness and H-E-B, and it did not last long. Because you can just see it. It was like they would open up a hot box and take the hot box out, take the product out of the hot box and slice it right there. Instead of, I didn't see a smoker in it.
That's what I was about to say. Is it something they actually brought product in?
They probably had a central location and they just probably distributed it to all the stores. I don't know. I didn't take the time to find out. All I know is I didn't like how they did it.
Right.
And there's still a Dickies up in the Woodlands over there off of. I think it's off of Kirkendall and Woodlands Parkway. It's in that little shopping center. It's not that good. It's just not. So another thing is, like, when you go to Rudy's and you buy a cup, a hard plastic cup, your refills are 75 cents.
Right.
So Dickies sells you the hard plastic cup, but there's no refill. There's no advantage to the cup. You're just getting their name out there. So that was 2 strikes. I was like done with that. So when you go to Rudy's, you order from a line that you see them taking the meat right out of the pit.
Yeah, they're practically cutting it right in front of you.
It's legit. It's right there, and you see it. That's important in a barbecue place. I go to Smitty's, Kreutz, Luling City Market, Lockhart. When you start hitting Central Texas, Snows, all those guys. The one I like is Luling City Market. It was when you walk through, there's a door that says, please close the door, there's smoke in this room.
Right.
That type thing. And you walk through and, dude, the butcher's right there on a butcher block that's almost worn down because of all the years they were cutting meat on it.
Sure.
And you go through a screen door, get your meat, and you come out and you sit down and eat. That's a barbecue joint. That's customer service when you go in them. But like I said, when you pull things out of a warming tray, it just you've lost me. I'm done with that.
When I was a kid, we lived for I guess 10 years in Bel Air, the city of Bel Air.
Right.
And so when I was a kid, I didn't think about, I would rather go to this barbecue place over another barbecue place. It was just, hey, we're going to have barbecue. So there was this place that was at the corner of Bissonnet and Rice Avenue, and it was called the Hickory Pit.
Oh yeah.
And so, and the only reason I remember is because I used to get my hair cut around the corner from where it was located, and my dentist was located on the other side of the building in another place. But the Hickory Pit, it had this like 1940ish, 50ish vibe, checkerboard tablecloths and
almost a diner kind of thing, like Johnny Rockets or something. Yeah.
Matter of fact, because I want to say the back area it was a place where you could host events there. But that was my first exposure to any barbecue at all. But it was when you walked in, there was no competing place. There was no discussions about
they were the joint.
Yeah, Hickory Pit this, but you need to go down to wherever. There was no discussions like that because it was a very hometownish kind of mentality there in Bel Air. So you frequented the places that are in your area.
Well, what I love about these places are the uniqueness of them.
Mm-hmm.
There's a place called Hickory Hollow over here by the racetrack.
Yes, I've been there many times.
And so they serve everything on a pie plate, which is pretty cool. I kind of like it. I mean, they're all, everybody says, oh, if it's not barbecue, it's not barbecue if it's not served on butcher paper. Oh, please. It's barbecue. You're just trying to act like you're cool or you know something about it. If it's good when you eat it and it stays down and you'll go back and get it again, that to me is good barbecue.
Yeah.
When I do look at barbecue, though, the reason why I order brisket is because not only is it the national barbecue meat of Texas, but that's really a good test of barbecue because you're looking for something that was cooked low and slow over a period of time, not something rushed through. You can tell a brisket that's been cooked in an oven versus a brisket that's been carefully smoked and prepared for the guest or for the customer.
Probably a lot with the smell.
Well, the smell is one thing, but you can always add smell and get away with it. They sell smokers for stove tops and stuff. I mean, my God, you can fake a lot of it, but what you can't get away with is the bark.
Oh, okay.
So when you look at a piece of brisket, you're looking for that nice bark. You don't want it like
what's this thing around an open flame?
Yeah, you want it to know. You want to know that thing got heat and everything caramelized and it all came to a nice crunchy love crust on top of that thing,
love crust.
Then you're looking for a smoke ring and you're looking for a pink ring before you get to the cooked meat.
Okay.
But you're looking for that red or pink line between the bark and the layer of fat and the meat.
Okay.
Because that's going to tell you that brisket has received low heat over a long period of time and you've got good smoke in it. Some people call it smoke ring. I'm not a fan of chopped beef sandwiches. I'm not a fan of anything like that. I want to literally see the beans.
I figured that it was. Yeah. It's what you're.
Yeah.
Because chopped hides what you're looking for.
Yeah. What I'm looking for is the artisan or the craft work of the guy barbecuing or of the pitmaster.
Okay.
Because literally those guys get there early. Being a pitmaster is not easy. They don't just give it to anybody.
Right.
That's a guy that knows fire. You know what logs burn. You know the humidity. I mean, buying wood for barbecuing is an art. We used to have a neighborhood competition in this subdivision right here. We would just invite a bunch of people, and I made a trophy with a pig on it.
Okay.
And we would pass it around. And my neighbor across the street, we didn't know this, but he used to run a barbecue joint when he was a kid.
Okay.
And so he would come in and just literally smoke everybody. And because I spent more time judging than I did competing.
Okay.
The only thing I've ever won is chili cook-offs. I've won several chili cook-off trophies in the area. But I used to do a lot of chuck wagon, open fire cooking. So I used to do pretty well at that as well. But I never really took on the brisket challenge or anything like that. I make a lot of ribs.
Right.
But anyway, I started getting into the brisket. And I can really appreciate now the work that goes into it. You got to really watch those things. And there's many phases. Some people argue you should use foil, should use the pink paper, the butcher paper, all this stuff. Hey, look. Aaron Franklin will teach you how to make a brisket online. Just go check him out on YouTube because I think he's the best at it. I've had his barbecue in Austin. It's phenomenal consistently. But I've eaten at Hard Eights by DFW by the airport, and that's excellent too. You walk in that place,
right? And
there's 3 gigantic pits that are 4 foot wide and like 10 foot long.
Right.
And they have shrimp and chicken and pork and brisket. They have everything on that. And you open it up, and they open up the lid, put it on your plate. Then they weigh the plate.
I have been someplace, where they did that.
Just weigh the plate and you go, which is pretty smart. I like that. So, I mean, there's so many different styles and there's so many different ways to do it that I can't ever say I just like one.
Right.
Like this place in Tomball, Tejas Chocolate and Craftery. Great people. I mean, I visit with the owners all the time. They're really cool.
That is some really good food.
They they get their meat from Rufino, which is a good place. That's another thing. You always want to get good brisket.
Okay.
Like for me, if I was to do one here in town, I'd go down to Pete's Fine Meats over off Richmond.
Oh yeah, Pete's, yes.
And just go talk to Michael, and Michael will fix you up with whatever you want. H-E-B does okay too. I mean, they sell the big. If you know how to break a brisket down, you can do pretty good with an H-E-B brisket as well. A lot of those are coming from, I won't mention their names, Cane's Meats. It's a big slaughterhouse going to San Antonio.
Okay.
A lot of that comes from those guys. And they electroshock their beef when they electroshock the carcass to tenderize it, so to speak. I don't know if I'm a...
So part of the soul of the animal stays with the meat?
Apparently, I don't know, but there's a science to that, and I'm just really not that guy. But anyway, so you just got to know where your brisket comes from. You got to understand how it's, how to do it and trim it and get it on there. And the whole thing is just to go play with it. That's the whole idea, is to make an event out of making brisket.
Right.
Now, I do eat other barbecue. I like barbecue chicken. But the way I like chicken is if it's not whole, I want at least the breast with the skin and the rib meat in it.
Right.
I like the big turkey breast. Now, you got to remember, these are drier cuts of meat.
Yes.
So, some people debate, should you brine them? Should you marinate them? No,
I'm a huge fan of brine. So.
I am brining if I'm cooking chicken for a group. If I'm doing it for barbecue, I don't. Okay. And so, because I use other things to do that.
Okay. To keep it moist?
Yeah, keep it moist. There's a trick to it. And so, I do eat that. But I'm not a rib guy. My wife loves ribs.
My father is huge rib guy. So whenever and I am not even remotely close to being any sort of a pit master or a smoker or anything. My buddy Jeff, now what I was going to mention is some of these barbecue pits.
Oh that's a whole road there.
Even if you just have a consumer size at home. Some of these have become like these Traegers and these wood pellet burning
ones. Which are great.
They're awesome.
Yeah, they take a lot of the work out of it.
He did a brisket, I guess it was like a month and a half ago. I think I had a brisket he cooked. Oh my Lord, that was probably one of the best briskets I have ever eaten. It was really good.
So the nice thing about those came from guys that were competing. So one of the toughest jobs when you're competing in barbecue is watching the fire. Okay, because it starts. Some guys start 2 in the morning. Some start. Because when you're judging barbecue, you're judging by 10 a.m. You're literally. I'll explain it to you. So what ends up happening is you're assigned. There's 3 flights of judging. You have the first table, the second round, and the final round where they choose the winners. Okay. So say you have 150 competitors at a barbecue cook-off, or even 100, or 75, whatever number. As a judge, your rules are pretty strict. You're going to get a package with the barbecue in it. It has a number on it. Right. You've got a scorecard. Okay, so the whole idea is you can't touch the brisket. You have to open the container and you have to visually look at it. Then you take a knife and a fork and you cut off a piece of it and you eat it. And then you throw away your utensils, you close the container and you pass it to your right. And then you write your score down. Okay. So part of the problem is when you're on first table, you're getting, I hate to say it, but you're getting some nuts of good barbecue. The guy in the third table is getting the best. Okay. Because we've weeded it all out. And so you work your way up in judging in how you are perceived as a judge and how you judge to move to the second table to the final table.
So the guy at the third table or that group, do they eat the least amount of barbecue?
Yes, they eat the least amount of barbecue. That's what I was getting ready to say. So when you're on first table,
screw that.
And if there's 100 so think about you're taking 75 1-ounce bites. Think about that. That's 75 ounces of barbecue. Right. I used to judge the one over there at the Farm and Ranch Club. And my favorite one was to judge the kid. Well, I judged all around, but that was one of my favorites, the Farm and Ranch Club. Because they have what's called the kids' queue. Okay. So what they would do is they'd get these little smokies, those little smoky grills that you see. So the rules were that the parents can only start the fires.
That's kind of a cool little
It's very cool. The coolest thing ever is to see little kids out there with their little cowboy, their Carhartt coats and their boots on, working the fire. It is the coolest thing ever. And so I love to judge the kids' queue because it was from toddlers all the way up to teenagers. Right. And I want to tell you something. There's some teenagers out there that get pretty creative. There was a kid from India that was barbecuing, and I'm a big season and spice guy. So, yes. What he came up with was very traditional, but he put his twist on it. Okay. And I want you to know, dude, it was fantastic. I wrote him a note when it was, because you can't communicate with anybody until it's over. And I wrote him a note, and I said, dude, I want you to know, when you open a restaurant, you call me, I'm going to be your first customer. Because his attention to detail, was very precise. His flavors were really good, and you walked away from it. Was it traditional? No, but it was. He followed every rule,
but he made it his own.
He did really good.
So what was the spice?
So I gotta think he used some cardamom and maybe some curry.
Yeah.
And, I don't really know. I can't really say.
Some curry, man.
But I'm gonna tell you, he used garam masala. Whatever he used on it, whatever he rubbed on it,
right,
was really good. And
nice.
it just had a. So what I like about brisket is my wife loves these is burnt ends.
Okay.
So down here, a lot of people just cut those off and throw them away. We eat it like it's candy. So what I like is a burnt end with about a half inch of brisket below it. It's on the flap. So if you look at a brisket, there's a flap that if you run your hand along the flap, there's a fat line there.
Right.
You just roll that off. That's where the crusty burnt ends are.
So you remember that
it's like candy.
What was that little? It was that little restaurant thing that we went to. We were coming back from the shooting range, and it was this place we stopped in that we were drinking some beer, and they had some burnt ends because you ordered them.
Yeah.
And I don't recall ever having had burnt ends until that time when you ordered them.
Wasn't it that place over that used to be next to Locatelli's? Wasn't that where we went and got burnt ends?
It was like way out in the
then that was probably Murdoch's.
Murdoch's, that's it.
It was either Murdoch's or the one down the road. It was called
no, it was Murdoch's.
Frisco Grilling Company or something.
It was Murdoch's because it was the house that was converted into a...
Okay. Yes. And I wouldn't say those were really good burnt ends, but yeah, it was your first exposure to it?
Yes.
So the nice thing about the burnt ends is you get that nice crunchy flavor with just a little sweet to it with a little bit of meat.
Uh-huh.
It's perfect for drinking beer. It's a beer drink. It's like the popcorn shrimp of barbecue, dude.
Okay.
Nice. You sit there and you just pile them down, which is really good. So I look for those on menus. That is a Kansas City thing. They invented it. It's all theirs, but it's working its way to Texas. I eat ribs if I make them. I'll tell you why I don't buy ribs in a barbecue joint. You get charged by the pound.
Okay.
Those bones weigh. There's some weight to them.
I do agree with you there.
Now I know they make an offset on the price. I get that, but I don't look at it that way. When I want barbecue, I want to pay for everything. Put it this way: if it's on the paper, it's getting eaten.
Yeah,
it's going down.
I should be able to digest.
everything on that plate. I'm just and that's the only struggle. So I make my own ribs. But when I do ribs here, I use a friend of mine in San Antonio is a competitor. He used to have a place called Blinky's Barbecue, and he's really good. He still competes, and him and his barbecue pitmate partner win all the time. I mean, they're really good. And he uses brown sugar when he rubs his. God! And I use a St. Louis cut. A lot of people like baby backs, so my wife likes baby backs, so I'll make those for her. But I like a St. Louis cut where they take that long rib and they just cut that one plate off the end of it, and it's just a perfect meaty. And I also like country ribs, which is the big meaty chunks at the end of it.
Right.
I like those because, again, I want the volume. I want meat. So yeah, I'll eat pulled pork if I'm in the Carolinas.
Okay.
I'll tell you. So I've had barbecue from Washington D.C. all the way down around the Atlantic coast, up around the Gulf Coast, and back around into Texas. And I've had barbecue in Vegas because there was a couple guys. You remember Dripping Springs? What's that barbecue? The real famous one, Salt Lick. So Salt Lick actually opened a barbecue restaurant in Red Rocks Casino in Las Vegas.
Really?
Yeah, they opened it for a very short time. It was there for a couple of years, then they closed it. And so I went. Actually, I was out there on business when they opened. I happened to be there for the opening, talking to the owners. And there's something that you miss when you eat it when you eat at the Salt Lick, because they have an open pit, which is the only one in the state because it's not legal. The health department won't let you do those anymore. They got grandfathered into that. And so what it is everything's dripping on top of it. Oh, it's just fantastic. You get all kinds of great flavors. Well, they couldn't do that there. But the barbecue was okay, but it wasn't like Texas. You know what I mean?
Right.
Texas barbecue is more than just food on a plate. It's the smoky room. It's when you can look at the wall and you see a handwritten note from 1942 that says, "I ate here and it was good."
Or it's a Lone Star Shiner beer sitting next to it.
You look around, there's license plates on the wall. All the memorabilia that makes it. Yeah. And it has smoke on it. It's not clean. It's not restaurant sterile. That's the other thing about commercial restaurants versus the artisan barbecue is the way they look at how they approach their dining rooms.
Right.
I kind of like that old smoky room. It's funny because I used to hunt in Evant, and so Goldthwaite and San Saba and all that's just right down the road.
Okay.
So I used to go to Cooper's. So Cooper's is a famous barbecue joint right there in Llano, Texas.
Uh-huh.
Okay, and I was sitting there one day, and Tommy Lee Jones, this guy was wearing polo boots and a polo shirt and a baseball cap. Him and 3 or 4 other of his vaqueros were coming in with him, and it was just cool to see Tommy Lee Jones walk into a barbecue place and carry his own paper and sit it down on a table. What was even cooler is people left him alone.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was just like Tommy was just
respected his space.
Give him his space, which I thought was really cool. But Cooper's is pretty good barbecue. I'm seeing a run down the line here. We talked about Smitty's, Kreutz, Luling, all those places. Joel's, we talked about that. There's a place in Huntsville, Mount Zion Baptist Church.
Oh, you were telling me a little bit about that place.
God, some of the best barbecues. It's 3 or 4 black guys that get together, and they do it to raise money for the church. And it's in the mornings, and they cook barbecue until it's done,
right?
And until they run out. And people show up for miles to get to that place.
Wow!
I'm telling you, it's worth the road trip. It is some of the best barbecue. I'll tell you, I really think when you look at the roots of barbecue in Texas, LBJ Ranch really took on kind of a big piece of barbecue history, because at the LBJ Ranch they used to have 20 and 30 foot pits, and a lot of these pit masters were black gentlemen. I'm going to tell you something, man. These dudes are some of the best barbecue, like you talked about it, is in the 4th Ward or whatever this 3rd Ward it's called.
You go to any of the Houston wards, you will find old school eateries that people will tell you that gets no play.
I know, and
in
it's a shame.
In any of the
it's good, but then it's bad, because if they got popular, then the city folks would ruin it for us.
Yeah,
they would,
or they would turn it into like prime real estate and take it away from them,
exactly.
And then all of a sudden that icon of an eatery is gone because somebody had the bright idea of, you tax them right out of owning it.
They do, and that is bullshit. I know, I hate that, but I'm gonna tell you that some of the best pit masters come from that generation, that era, and they've passed it on to their kids.
Uh-huh.
And honestly, in the state of Texas, if you really want to do well in the restaurant business, you should just open a barbecue joint or a burger joint. Because, I mean, look at the place we like to go to, the Shack.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. I mean, how do you not like that place?
Well,
it's rustic, it's got burgers, it's got all that good stuff in it.
No, it's shut down.
The one off of
I
the
think
Northwood?
I think... Oh, you know what? You may be right. I think that I know that the one that we went to that had that ginormous ceiling fan. Yeah.
Okay.
I think
that's POs. That's the old POs that they bought. They closed that?
Yeah. That one they closed it.
What?
It got horrible reviews, but it's something else now.
Yeah.
But it's something still in that hamburger type business.
That's a shame, because the one over off of by Skinner Road is still the best one.
The one with where you almost run over kids.
The buses in the yard and everything like that. It's still some of the best food there.
Yes.
But yeah, so like I said, barbecue's one of those things. We'll probably talk about catfish places on another date, because that's another thing that you can really get off into.
Oh, when you go into East Texas, there is catfish places all over.
Dude,
the
right
place.
Here in Conroe, Vernon's.
Yes.
105 by the lake. I don't care. They got flooded out. They remodeled. They really needed to remodel because it looks great, but the food is still off the chain. But yeah, so barbecue, like I said, falls into that line. Dallas-Fort Worth has got some good barbecue joints. I mean, they really do.
Right.
I'm a big fan of. I like going to H3s in the stockyards. Hard 8s is pretty good. I know I'm leaving out a bunch of them. I mean, I've probably been to 100 places that have renamed, became something else. I don't know, but the whole idea about barbecue is just to kind of understand what you're getting. Everybody wants to be a critic. They always want to judge the sides.
Yes.
Now, sides do have a big piece of the business. Okay, I get that, because my favorite is macaroni and cheese with brisket in it.
Oh,
so it's smoked mac and cheese with brisket. So Jack Stacks up in Kansas City, Jack Stacks Fiorella, really got me into into the sides.
Okay.
Their beans. So, Goody's Barbecue.
Yeah, because
Jim Goody.
I always judge beans. So.
Yeah, so the Jim Good makes his beans like I used to make mine. When I used to do the Chuck Wagon cooking, I used to cater. I used to compete sort of a little bit, but I found that it was better for me to cater because I really did. I don't like how I don't like it. Judging is so subjective; it's not even funny. But I make my beans a lot like he does. I use dehydrated apples in mine, so I cook mine with apple chunks, and it has some peppers in it. It's a different. I call them cowboy beans. But going back to Jack Stacks, they have a cream corn. They have a creamy corn. Okay. Oh, and then moving back to Tejas over here. Holy cow, man! I mean, they do brisket Reubens. They do a pastrami.
Their Reuben is the bomb.
They do.
Oh my god!
They make their own pastrami and they smoke their pastrami, and you can get it alone,
right?
Or you can get it in a Reuben. And you're missing out if you don't get the Reuben.
Oh lord!
Because it's really good. But their sides, they have a sweet potato or carrot souffle.
Yes, I've had all the carrot souffle, the sweet potato, whatever they have. Oh my lord!
The corn that they do. But where they really shine is their mole. Okay.
Okay, I will.
They have one of the best moles in a restaurant around.
I will say this: prior to having their mole, when I was a kid, my brother and I, we played soccer and went to this school, and we were friends with the Martinez family.
Right.
So my first time ever having mole, I was like, "Oh my god, this stuff is so good."
Oh yeah.
What I quickly learned was mole is one of the things that you can quickly jack the fuck up.
You can if you don't know what you're doing.
I had so many instances after that first awesome experience where all the mole was horrible. I flat out stopped eating mole. Period.
So a little bit about mole. So my really good friend in San Antonio, his mother, she's no longer with us, but she was one of the best cooks ever. She had like 13 kids,
right?
And she knew how to cook. And so when they all grew up and moved off and she was living up on her own, I would always go visit my friend.
Right.
And I'd say, "Hey, Joe, what's your mom up to?" He said, "Well, let's go see." So we go over and she's like, "Oh, what can I make you?" So she starts cooking. She made mole. And we had chicken with the mole on it. And you know, the way they do their iced tea, they put a lot of limes in it, and it's sweet with lime. And it was like, I mean, literally the best meal I've ever had in my life. That chicken mole was the best if I died today and it said, "What's your best meal?" His mother can cook.
Really?
And so this became a habit. Every time I would go visit, I would show up. And so there for a while when I was traveling internationally, she would always say, "Where's your big Italian friend? He likes to eat, you know." And she said, "Oh, well, when he comes back in town, we'll come over." So that's where I got started with mole.
Right.
When I went to Tejas, their mole was close enough to make me have that food memory.
Their mole is really, really good. She was. Yeah.
Because, earlier, and so, and they do their pit right. They run their kitchen correctly. Their chocolate's good. Okay.
Yes.
Being in that business for a long time.
All their desserts.
Yeah. Desserts are really good. And most people don't order desserts in a restaurant because it's the most neglected part. It's usually, let's just go buy a frozen pie from our local food purveyor and try to pass that off as good. No way, dude. If you're going to serve a dessert, pick only 2, but do them damn good.
Right.
Just make them where they're the best. Make it your signature, like a carrot cake or something. So, that's one thing. They have their pit outside. It's great seating. It's an old building. My only thing is they're not open enough. I don't even believe, weekends,
right.
To me, I want to go there on a Sunday afternoon. They're usually closed, That's the only thing about them. Well, I get it.
It's really more the Tomball area.
I get that. But. Yeah, Tomball's that way. And I appreciate that because if I ate there every day, I'd probably get tired of it.
But even during the week, because there's other places there in Tomball that I would like to go check out. And if you don't get there before 3 o'clock, you ain't eating. You're not eating.
So, and this isn't the Tejas show, but they did get into the Texas Monthly list of barbecue joints to go see. And when that happened, the lines just got like corkscrew crazy. They got like long. But you were talking earlier about equipment. Now, the best barbecue comes from just straight out really good smokers. And they're usually big vessel smokers. They're not anything really fancy. And there's a guy watching the fire. But a good friend of mine and I, we used to work together back in the retail days. And we worked at H-E-B together for a while. And they have a family hunting lease by Hallettsville.
Right.
And John started his career as a meat cutter, so he knows about meat. The one thing he convinced me to do is quit buying hamburgers, start making my own hamburger from grinding up brisket. Just buy a brisket and grind your own. It's cheaper and it's better, and he's right, it was. But when I used to go hunting with them, they would always smoke something.
Okay.
And so they had the coolest smoker on the planet. You know, they had an old washing machine. They had a top-loading washing machine.
What?
And they gutted all the outside of it, and they just stuck it on the ground.
Okay.
And then they have a fire pit on the outside of it with a pipe, that a quarter-inch steel pipe that runs into it.
Uh-huh.
So that they have the smoke on the outside, and the smoke runs in, and they drilled holes in the side and put some all thread in there, and they have grates at different levels. It's the coolest. It's the most unique looking smoke pit I've ever seen in my life.
I'm trying to visualize this thing in my head.
It's a washing machine with a smoke pipe that goes in the side with a firebox or an open fire pit on the outside, and you just keep the fire stoked, and it draws it through the washing machine.
Talk about repurposing.
I'm telling you, it's the coolest thing ever. It's just like, oh my God! But the food was so good because so they're Czech. They're from that area. They're from Hallettsville.
Yeah.
And so you're getting some good food down there, man. And I miss doing that. We used to do that a lot. We don't do it hardly anymore, but I'm telling you, you put a brisket on the day before and just let it go all night. Oh my God!
So you want to make a Czech nervous, walk up and ask him where the sausage kolaches are.
Oh yeah, no doubt, for sure.
God, you will send them into a whirlwind.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because it just goes to prove that barbecue joints or cooking barbecue isn't all about the equipment. It's all about understanding what you're doing, knowing to cut a meat, what you're trying to accomplish,
right,
and not trying to rush it. Most people, they rush their barbecue, and it's just like it's just not good. But what I would suggest is just get a list, start your own list of all the places you want to go, and make notes. There's nothing wrong with making notes about barbecue joints you go to.
Right.
We do it all the time. We usually we look for the best tacos.
Oh, heck
we look for the best hamburgers.
Taco discussions are the best.
Yeah, they are. And and to me, tacos are still. So to me, tacos are the runner-up to barbecue.
Uh-huh.
I'm a burger guy, but tacos are moving in there really quick. Mostly because I've become a little more healthy and I'm not trying to eat as much bread. And that taco gives you that bridge.
That just means we have to ride. When we go on these bike rides, we have to have
ride more
so we can eat more.
But yeah, so it's just one of those things. But I would suggest just go out and explore and taste and share. That's the best way to learn about barbecue.